It's 5:45 in the morning. I was up at 3:30. Nervous about my shower. Man. Nervous about my truck. Got a big trip coming up. And I've got this great mechanic. He's a good mechanic. And I have gotten him to take my truck in this morning. He's going to do it. Shocks, brakes, all around. A couple other little things. He's got his bays full of real engine rebuilds, and he's going to do shocks and brakes for me. And I'm nervous about it because I got this trip coming up, and if my mechanic doesn't do it, I'm going to have to do it in the yard. There's things I do well, and I can do well. And for years and years, I've done things that I do well. But they haven't translated into, like a dignified living. So I have to get all my dignity from God's love and just keeping going. My wife says I don't have any quit in me. I'd like to think that, except quitting things is like a constant thought. Anyway, so I'm nervous about that. I went to bed at like 9:40. I woke up at like 3:45. That's 6 hours of sleep. That's adult sleep measures, so I'm not unhappy. I also appreciate a few hours in the morning, quiet, and just listening to different things and thinking my thoughts and looking at what's going on out there in the messages and Facebook feed. So it's a great morning. So this morning, with the help of my friends, I'll be dropping my truck off for surgery. And with the help of my friends, I will be trying to get the shower basin measured in, floor repair, basin down today. Thanks for caring. I really do think you guys care. I am actually grateful for the horrible social media giant monster. I feel like we're on the lunatic fringe of it, where some really good stuff is happening. That's kind of like overall a keeper. But I wanted to take a moment and just tell one story. Just one thing. I began the story yesterday during one of my videos, and I just want to tell it clearly. It was the 80s. There was this wheel that came out. It was called the SS Radial. It had a crazy, awesome precision aluminum machined bearing seat in the middle. So core, aluminum core on a urethane wheel. And oh man, did I ever love that idea. Very hard. Really good wheel for slides, street. They were very hard. And I loved that idea. And they stocked these up at Best Cycle. And Best Cycle, it was a bike shop. That was our skate shop. They had a skate counter there. And Best Cycle did us good, all right? So I really enjoyed. That was a mystical place. That was where there was a demo. I had a big experience. But that's not the story. This is the story about SS Radials. So SS Radials wound up being the worst and the best wheel ever at the same time for me. For me, just for me. For everyone else, they were the worst wheel ever. Now, I do not make wheels. I have never made wheels. I follow a couple people who make wheels. Let me grab a cuppa. I follow a couple people who make wheels. And wheel making is an amazing craft. There's so many things I don't make. And I just can't make them. I can't make a guitar. I could make a guitar. I could make wheels. But let me tell you, friends, after teching out and making skateboards, and after building a couple, rudimentary motorcycle parts, I realized that the value of people who make things is exceptional. But I'm telling a story about SS radials. Here's why the SS radial wheel was a big win for me. I bought them. Steve bought them. Dan bought them. At least 3 or 4. I think Dave bought some. I think Will bought some. There were a bunch of these out there. And all of our wheels, they did not just flat spot. Okay, I don't understand urethane, but these wheels were as if they were like, have you ever made brownies, or have you ever made like, I don't make a lot of baking stuff, but like, did you ever eat a brownie or a muffin where they didn't mix the dough well enough and you had powder, like you had like the powdered dough mix was like baking powder lump? You know, did you ever have that? I remember as a kid biting into some sort of a bread concept and having a powdered lump of baking powder in there. That was these wheels. I don't know what it was, but they would have these pockets that were gone, not caved out, but just wrong durometer, maybe too hard, maybe too soft. They just were gone. You would just be riding them and all of a sudden, brrr, all day long. And you look at it, and it would be like pockmarked spot that's kind of gray, picking up dirt, and it was just like leprosy. But it was like one wheel in every set, maybe 2. So between me and Steve and Dan and Will and Dave, I wound up, everybody just let me have them. Some of the guys had coned them down really small and let them go for being small. And the smaller they got, the more I liked them, because they were really big. They were like 63 millimeters from the start. So the small ones were still 55 millimeters. And somehow I didn't really mind having one small wheel, because I would just put it on my front toe side and then wear that thing down really fast, because I tic-tacked hard on that side. The 360s, and I wore wheels down as a kid. I had to flip them and move them around, and I always was wearing my wheels down. And just thinking of how now, you know, I have an Achilles injury, so a lot of times I run and throw my board down and go. I don't like to push a lot anymore. I did like a 10-mile push with a bunch of guys, and I was like afraid my Achilles was going to detach. Well, anyways, these SS radials, I wound up having like 10 of them, 10 wheels that I cycled through, and they kept me going for a long time, probably like a whole summer. I used up wheels and stuff, but those kept me going for like a whole summer, and they were terrible, terrible wheels, but at the same time, they were great. And that's the story of SS radials and me. Do you guys remember that wheel? You remember SS radials? I do. And that's my story. See, I told one story about one thing. We're getting better. Have a great day. Thanks. You matter. Stick around.